that's discussing the Kemetic science from the Christian perspective. Then you got some discussing the Kemetic sciences from an Islamic perspective. And you have some that's coming from a Pan-Africanist perspective. And then you have those that's coming from a more ancient Kemetic viewpoint. And understanding the difference between a conscious community and a non-conscious community becomes a critical point, because at some point you have to be able to distinguish between the information being relayed and the effectiveness of the information. Because if a person has the correct information but cannot put it in a digestible format, and it becomes useless information. So when you examine the conscious community, these are the ones that say, oh, I'm God, or what's up, black man? You know, and they do all their diligence in studying. The problem comes in when the accomplishment of finishing a book inflate their ego. The ego has no place in liberation, because you cannot liberate anybody to soothe and satisfy your ego, because your ego is going to automatically rebel. It's not going to be compatible. Your ego is going to be more hedonistic in its pursuit, but your higher aspect will be more deliberate and intent in its pursuit. So you determine the difference between a true conscious community and a pseudo-conscious community by their understanding of the problem, the standardized reaction to the problem, and the proposed solutions, what they call the Hegelian dialect. Because if the person that's controlling the narrative created the problem in the first place, and then he came and offered you a solution because of your reaction, and the solution is both proposed by your oppressor, that becomes counterproductive. How can the person that's oppressing you offer you the solutions to your oppression? He'll never do it. The oppressor will never surrender his stronghold on you, because you are a prime resource. So you have to understand the problem, reaction, solution scenario and how it works. Then when you go understand the Hegelian dialectic, you have to understand the military concept of divide and conquer, the isolation of groups of people into smaller groups and make them more controllable. So in order to circumvent that, the conscious community would have a strategic plan in place. And in the time of liberation, they would start to all execute the same plan, knowingly or unknowingly, because it's the path to liberation, and this is rooted in the foundation of justice. Knowingly or unknowingly, they're going to automatically gravitate toward the same solution if they truly understand the problem. You can have two scientists working on the same problem, different parts of the world. If they both did their research, study, and develop their faculty, and they both solve the problem at the same time, it's the same problem. They can only come out with one correct solution. So if I'm an Egyptologist or Kemeticist, or if I am an indigenous religious student of the African and Native peoples, and I understand what the problem is, then I will automatically know what the solution is. If they don't want me to talk to other people with the intellect, the heart, and the passion for liberation that I have, maybe I should go talk to them kind of people. I don't have to agree with everything that person is proposing, because they got a different understanding, a different paradigm. This goes with being conscious in truth, because in conscious and truth, you'll understand that there are many different abilities in individuals. And as we cultivate different abilities, we have a different viewpoint based on what we are capable of. This goes with squandering resources. Right now, the most unused power on earth is Africans the world over. The most unused power on earth is Africans the world over. They don't use their power. And then they cry because they're powerless. It's not that you're powerless. The power is there, but you're not using it. You have your resources scattered. So the biblical texts say a house divided amongst itself cannot stand. This is a direct reflection on our conscious community. Because as long as young Pharaoh don't want to talk to Brother Polite, for example, then that's not a path or a march toward liberation. That's a path or a march toward the satisfaction and gratification of the ego. So what do? I like young Pharaoh's personality and style. Some of his approach I don't care for, but I would work with him in a heartbeat, because I believe that if he was to be exposed to certain people with certain information, then young Pharaoh changed some stuff real fast because of his ability to reach the people in that age bracket. That age bracket is the critical age bracket for us, between 13 and 30. Because when you in that age bracket, that's when the system is trying to struggle with your community to control you most, because that's when your vigor, force, and power is strongest. That's when you got that drive to scratch out like with no remorse. And they know this. So they try to stifle the youth and separate them from the wisdom of the elders. This is your conscious community not paying attention to these things, because these are the things they should be capitalizing on. And this is the exact things that make their consciousness be more of a problem than it is a solution. So anything on this planet, good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's true, false, or undecided, if it's not being used as a tool of your liberation, it's an obstacle to your liberation and need to be discarded. That's that simple. Everything needs to be used as a tool of your liberation. The truth, the lie, the good, the bad, the things they do to hold you oppressed, you can use the very same tools to break the oppression if you understand how the tool works. And your conscious community is supposed to be informing the masses of the people, this is how it works, and this is how we liberate from it. When your conscious community, because you have white conscious community as well, they call them truth seekers, or they call them myth busters and all those other names, but that's just the white conscious community. They conscious just like they got a black conscious community. But they got those that's even reaching out across ethnic barriers, because they are truly conscious to try to garner a unification, because they can see the same thing that the black conscious people see, that we got the same enemy. But the collective don't know, because our conscious community is not effective in reaching them with a common message of liberation. Anytime a people is oppressed, if they understand they're oppressed, they're going to look to those who they consider as the wise ones, the ones who got the time to do the research and investigation, or even if got the time, they have that passion for the research and investigation of the Hegelian dialectic, the problem, reaction, solution scenario. Now, all of these leaders have been up front. They've been getting it in, but they haven't broke the oppression yet. But the oppression is too simple to break. That's why they can't break it. It's too simple. All you got to do is clean up the house. Clean up the house, and everybody gonna stand at attention and be like, It's that time, y'all. It's that time. We can stop bickering amongst one another and stop being our own obstacle. And once we do that, that barrier falls, because where we're looking for the solution is exacerbating the problem. What do I mean by that? Because I'm studying Fruit of Islam, I believe in the messenger. That leaves me no room for Dr. Ben, because some of Dr. Ben's information might sound like it's contradictory to what the messenger said. That is foolish. What did they say that was the same? Have you ever considered that angle? Or let's just say a guy might be into, he might have a Babalawo and he's into the indigenous cultural religions of Africa, and he don't want to hear nothing about nothing Kemetic. I'm Ife. I'm Ife. I don't talk that, man. That's all up in Egypt, man. Ain't got nothing to do with me. But all of it got something to do with you. If you understand the oppressor, the technique, and the tools that you have at your disposal for liberation. It's all here. The power is in place, but we not using it. The stage is set, but we ain't cleaning it. And as long as we not using the power, then you might as well be powerless. What's the sense of having the ability to defend the world, but you won't do it? You just let it go to ruin because you won't use the power to defend it. The easiest way to break the oppression is to stop them from stealing the babies and raping the women. And that's the first time their knees gonna buckle. Stop them from eating the babies and raping the women, and their knees buckle instantly, because they can't have that blood to facilitate the right. They can't draw off that pain and misery to facilitate the right. The right doesn't have the required negative force. If we can just control them stealing and eating our babies and harvesting our children's organs for these old, decrepit, wrinkled up individuals that's decaying from the inside out. But we so conscious and we so aware in the conscious community that we won't even look at the obvious solution to the problem. What are they doing to hold power? What are they doing to hold power? They shedding blood and exercising the rights. It's just that simple. So the conscious community becomes an obstacle to liberation when they fail to see that the simplest solution to the problem, because the African and the natives all over the world always sought the simplest solution, and the simplest solution is qualified unity. How do you qualify it? It's political, but you don't have to use their political system. You got an indigenous right. It's been ratified by every nation on earth that's part of the United Nations. It was authored right here in the good old US of A. The indigenous people have the right to govern themselves indigenously. So why would you still be under their system? And how are you under their system? Do you even understand how they have you under their system? Like, we follow a narrative of history. Now, remember, they always tell us that history is written by the victors. The victors are the ones who want you to see the result in a certain angle. They got to put a spin on it. How do you unravel the spin? They have to repeat it over and over because they have no other means of survival. They have to use what they already know because it cannot innovate on it. The only innovation on it will be what they get from those that look like you. Because the innovation, let's go to communism, that was originally said to be written by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. and the Communist Manifesto and Descapital and whatnot, but they never tell you the most prolific philosopher of communism based all of the ideology that became communism on tribal standards that was tried, true, and proven. And you can look his works up. His name is C.L.R. James. And all of the greats don't mention him, but they studied him. Even if they didn't agree with the communist philosophy and doctrine, they studied C.L.R. James because he was a brilliant mind and he had actual solutions to common everyday problems. But the collective of our conscious community overlook him a lot. We overlook a lot of our great teachers. And then we take some of the ones that we all accept, like Carter G. Woodson. We know that miseducation of the Negro is a provable, verifiable fact through both psychology and the educational sciences. But we still continue to put our children in an adverse condition to their natural development. We put them in a 12-step program. They call it K through 12. They have a primer, which is the kindergarten, and they start you off on your 12-step program. But nobody's telling you who's going to benefit from the program. Like, what is the program laid out to do? What is it designed for, and why does it take 12 steps? This wasn't always the way education was meted out. But we're not paying that any attention as we send our children to these institutions on a regular basis. But we never realize that just like their educational system is an institution, their incarceration system is also an institution. And if one precedes the other has to benefit from the first. In other words, that if prison, you have to be a certain age to attend. You have to be a minimum without being waived as an adult of 18 years old to go to prison. So if this is the case, then the first one would have to prime you and make you proper material to facilitate the second one to become a success. Prison cannot become a success if education is a success. Prison would be destined to fail if true education was a success. This is basic psychology 101. This is not rocket science. There's no way education can be successful without the prison system failing. There's no way that the prison system can be successful unless the educational system is failing. So one has to facilitate the other. 12 steps, AA, 12 steps, detox. What are they detoxing your child from in the 12-step program? Well, they extracted it from your general educational network. It was once part of every form of education. Now it's 2 separate subjects. And in 2 separate subjects is called critical thinking, practical problem solving. They took what was natural to the learning process and extracted it from the learning process, made it separate so that what they are given in the learning process is a training process. It's a simulation of a false idea. But your conscious community is ignoring this. Now, they got some brilliant minds that keep telling you the same thing I'm saying. I'm gonna give you some examples. We got Nathan and Julia Hare. This sister and her husband wrote much material on the difference in the educational systems, but we still send our children there in light of these works. I have seen this woman jumping up and down on stage about our children. Can't nobody say nothing bad about her to me and not be addressed. Brother Amos Wilson, in the natural development of the Black child and psychological development of the Black child, or bringing Black children to greatness or something like that. But he got a series of books about educating the child, which tells you that the system, the 12-step system they're in, is not functional for melanated beings. It's not really a functional system for any being that's a mammalian humanoid. It's more functional before a robotoid that's learned as a computer program. In order to become flawless in it, he has to repeat the program until it is processed. It's downloaded completely. At that point, miseducation of the Negro. You don't even have to worry about sending him to the back door once he's well conditioned. He'll make one. Carter G told you. And so when we look at obstacles in the path, the greatest obstacle in the path to the liberation of the people is the unification of the people, because the oppressor uses the minds of the people as their primary attack weapon. It's like the agents in the Matrix. The one sitting next to you, you love the most, is the one going to give you the most opposition to breaking the oppression. Because anytime someone tries to break the oppression, the system collapses on them. But sooner or later, there'll be one coming along that when the system see that particular one unifying all of the people, then the system is going to be like, whoa, move out that one way. He ain't like the rest of them. One of these guys in this place is different.